Hey, good morning, everybody. Hey, Jeff Pearson here. Welcome to Invisible Condition. It's not all in your head, okay? I'm your host, reminding you that you are not alone, all right? And in a world where it's easy to feel invisible, I want you to know that I see you, okay? You're not invisible. We are a community after all, and I'm here to show you just how big and beautiful that community is. And speaking of community, I have an amazing, very special guest today. Her name is Ashlee, and we're going to say hello right now. Hello, Ashlee.
Hi, everybody.
I am
Jeff,
so excited that you're here. This is awesome. It's been a while.
Collab. I love it for us.
Oh, it's been a while since we've seen each other. I think it was like December, November or something. It's been a while. So it's really good to see your smiling face.
You're now a published author.
It's been fun. It's been a ride the last few months since we were on one of these, just like kind of like this, not just like this.
Yeah.
It's awesome, and you're awesome, and I'm very excited that you're here.
Thanks.
So introduce yourself. Tell us your name and tell us about your background and your family and what you do and all that fun stuff.
Sure thing. Hey, everybody. I'm Ashlee, or Ash. My pronouns are she, her. I now live in New England. I was born and raised in the very beautiful island of Bermuda, but we are very small and have very limited. A little bit of a medical zebra that has a lot going on medically. Unfortunately, I had to kind of relocate and, find a team that, could address my medical needs a little closer to where I live in New England now. And now it's just kind of about raising awareness and de-villainizing conditions and allowing people to see kind of the humanity behind disability and chronic illnesses, because we're people and we exist. And I can guarantee you somebody in your life with an invisible illness. So I'm just out here trying to be a face to kind of show you that we are here. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And you cut out there for a second, but I think I caught that you're in Vermont.
I am. Right? Yeah, I'm in Vermont and loving it.
I think I've been to Vermont, but it's been like 25 years. I need to get back there. It's a pretty awesome place.
I agree. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's not great, when it snows and ice if you have mobility issues, but it's fine. We'll get through it.
Yeah. Yeah. A little 4-wheel drive, you're good to go. So, I don't know a lot about POTS. I mean, we did, I know a couple other people with the condition, but honestly, it's not really a conversation starter. So, I mean, so tell us, what does POTS actually stand for?
Yeah. So first, please allow me to say I am not the expert. I was diagnosed with POTS in November of last year. So unlike my two other conditions, this is not a condition I've had for 30 years. So I'm still very much kind of learning as well. But POTS in and of itself stands for post-orthostatic tachycardic syndrome, which basically means that when people with POTS, which is a dysautonomic condition, typically when we change or have positional changes that are greater than about 30 degrees, because of the dysregulation that comes with dysautonomia, our blood vessels do not send the correct amount of or optimal amount of blood and oxygen to the brain, because it pulls like to our feet and to our hands away from the heart. So that's kind of the gist. But what I'm learning is that it impacts a lot more than a lot of people assume. It's kind of the fainting and the heart. But with it being dysautonomic, it impacts the entire system. And that's kind of where the difficulties lie.
And what in dysautonomic?
Oh, boy.
We got there.
That kind of talks to the regulations in our system that have to be sent signals to kind of regulate. So think of body temperature, so sweating, anything that would prompt the body to have a biological reaction that kind of goes on the fritz because the signals kind of misfire.
So I'm curious about that. So is that like with hot and cold, like hot and cold and that kind of like to regulate your body?
Yeah. So if I take like an obnoxiously hot shower, I used to love that. Can't do that anymore. My body can't re-regulate its temperature as quickly. So that kind of sends me out of whack, which is not fun. But basically it's trying to keep the system as level as possible without triggers that, would kind of send us into a flare.
Okay. So how does Vermont treat you in that respect? I mean, I would think that would be like you'd want to live in a state that doesn't do like really cold and then really hot and then like here, Colorado. Hello. Yeah.
Like I said, ironically when I was diagnosed, it was the cooler part of the season. We were just kind of starting the season. So it's been a bit of a challenge to kind of learn what I can do to keep my body adjusting to kind of the dysregulation. So right now I'm in longer sleeve shirts, but I have on like capris to kind of balance out, to keep one part of the body kind of in adjusting to the weather that we have right now, but also because I can't really regulate, it's cool, but like my body feels hot. So at any given time, I'm dressed for like 2 seasons. It's really fun. Great.
I totally get it. It didn't used to be a thing, but I don't know if hydrocephalus has anything to do with it, or it's just because I'm older, but I don't know. But I tell you what, man, since the last revision I had in 21, it has been a thing. Like, I do not like the swings in weather in Colorado where we get
or the pressure
30 in the morning and 70 in the afternoon. And
no. I'm not about that anymore.
No. So okay, all right. I'm not alone. I get it. All right. Yes, I'm not crazy.
Nope.
I guess that's maybe a separate question, but let's see. So so I'm going to just throw this out there because we are recording this show today. There's no live audience today, but whenever you out there because it'll be on, we'll broadcast it on Facebook and YouTube, and it'll be on the E360 TV website afterwards. And so, as on Facebook and YouTube, as you're watching it, when we air this episode, please comment. Let us know. Have you ever heard of POTS before? Do you know somebody with POTS? Do you anything like that? We're all about keeping this community going and strong, and that's a huge part of it, is making sure everybody knows that they're not alone. And one way to do that is to say, hey, I know somebody, or I have it, or so comment, please. When this goes on, please comment. We'll see those too. So with POTS, what kind of symptoms, like what happens? Like, what do you, when you,
So I notice there's what I call like my devilish trio. That tells me I'm about to have like a really big flare that usually will end up in a close to, if not a complete, pass out. The back of my neck gets very profused, intense sweating that's localized purely to my neck, which is super weird. Super strange. I lose hearing to some degree. It feels like I'm in a tunnel, which I used to identify as one of my VP symptoms.
Sure.
And then I get tremors. So like I'll notice my hands start to shake, but also as somebody with spastic CP, I used to chalk that up to a spasm. So it's interesting to kind of see if this has been something that has kind of always been around, and maybe we just kind of suggested it was, we explained it away for one condition. But that usually tells me like, hey, I need you to sit down because like we're about to go down.
No, I not
It's
with
fun.
the same symptoms, but yes, I get it. Yeah, there's certain things that you know is coming, and
Yeah.
you have to. Hopefully, you get there before you have to dive for a chair, right?
Yeah. So
You know.
thankfully I know
Oh,
now, like if I change positions,
uh-huh.
any greater than 30 degrees is usually a trigger for me. So
You mean like sitting to like
sitting to
tilt your
stand,
okay,
I've
okay.
noticed laying down to going sublime trigger it, or like when I am in my wheelchair for 12 and a half hours at work, to
Yeah.
then stand up at the end of the day, trigger,
Yeah.
because of all the blood pooling. So
Uh-huh.
anything that I know now will require like positional changes. I try to be very aware and kind of communicate with the person in my household, like, hey, I'm I'm shifting, I'm walking, I'm moving. So if you hear like a bang,
So heads up.
please,
Yeah.
yeah, like my grandfather and I have a great system. Like if we hear like miscellaneous noises in the house, we'll call out and say, "You good?" And if I
Yeah.
don't answer back within, 10 seconds, he moves toward the sound, which is good.
Yeah, that's good. Man, oh my gosh. Okay, so is there any like story that stands out that was like this is when I first know, this is
Oh
when I first
gosh.
thought, it's POTS, it's not anything else. It's
Ooh. No, unfortunately, because so much of it is co-occurring, like it
yeah.
really flares up when my shunt is not working, which unfortunately, as we've established, you and I are a bit different. Like you're kind of on one end of the spectrum, I'm kind of on the other end. But I remember I had a malfunction in January of 2022.
Uh-huh.
Um, where I remember I was working in the office, so I was seated for about 6 hours. I went to stand up to go to the bathroom, went to the bathroom, and I remember going to stand up and thinking, oh, I don't feel good. And then it's black. All I remember is that
Oh
suddenly
no.
the paramedics were at my house. I was on the floor of my office,
Oh
and
my
don't
gosh.
really remember what happened. They believed it was a seizure because
Oh,
I didn't have any knowledge, but
uh-huh.
I hadn't had seizure activity my whole life.
Yeah.
So fast forward then 11 months to November of 2021. I talked to my neurosurgeon and was like, hey, before I get discharged, can we chat about this symptom I've been noticing since January? Thankfully, he really listened and ordered a
Yeah.
set of orthostatic tests before I was discharged. So they kept me another day. And when doing the orthostatic, so the sit to stand, the
Yeah.
standing to walking, I was hooked up to a monitor, and they
Hmm.
noticed like, oh, that increases your heart rate by 60 beats. It's
Huh.
positional. And that's how the POTS diagnosis came out, was
Wow.
essentially because I advocated and was listened to. But yeah, it was co-occurring with the shunt.
That is so huge though. What you just said right there, you kind of glossed over it, but that's a huge point because
Yeah.
first of all, you had was this a neurosurgeon you were talking to,
Yeah,
or
this is
okay,
my main
your
neurosurgeon.
neurosurgeon that you've dealt
Yeah.
with hydrocephalus for all these years, and so and obviously, I mean, mine is great too. I've had amazing neurosurgeons over my lifetime, and that is huge because that is the biggest thing that will get you in trouble is somebody who either doesn't think you have what you have or like isn't listening, right,
Yeah.
and not and thinking that they know better than you do even though you
Mhm.
live in your body, not them.
Yeah.
uh, and so that yeah, to have a neurosurgeon or even a neurologist or even a GP doc, that actually listens
That
and
hurt me. Yeah.
like really listens, then
Yeah,
here's
that
what you're
wasn't gonna
saying and
gaslight it or
okay,
explain it away,
yeah,
was
so
really kind of cool. Because
so
unfortunately,
kudos to him.
yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
unfortunately, as a female, statistics will tell you that you and I can have the same symptoms and say the same thing, and unfortunately, you are more apt to be kind of understood and not kind of pushed aside simply because you are male presenting and male identifying. So to have somebody say, okay, I don't know what's going on, but if this is what you're saying and it's been happening for 8 months, let's take a day and let's do some tests. And, that's how it all came out.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's huge. That's why I wanted to point that out, because that is not a that is, I don't want to say it's rare, but it's not
it's no small thing.
It's not the norm, and it's a huge thing when it happens. So that's awesome. And obviously, when you have like one symptom or another, I know you said that they're co-occurring because you've got the different conditions going on, but are you able to do you need to do things differently if it's a symptom of POTS versus hydrocephalus versus
I think the first thing is kind of identifying what symptoms are popping out. So thankfully, my hydrocephalic symptoms have kind of progressed a bit now over the years. But there are certain things that don't change. So if I'm not able to speak, as you can hear me now, if I lose that ability, we might be looking at a shunt. A head pain that is severe, that is not a headache, but a debilitating, sharp head pain, that's shunt. But unfortunately, the balance that can now be POTS. So it's kind of assessing. It's not being so quick to assume, oh, this is shunt. It's, oh, wait, let's sit with this for a second. What are you feeling? And does it abate when you kind of do one thing or one intervention or another?
Yeah, and I wanted to ask about that because of your kind of relatively recent realization of this, so because for your whole life up until now, it's been, it's a shunt thing, or it's so it was real easy, and so now it's like, okay, now my brain has to hurt a little.
No.
Yeah. Oh man, I mean, that's why they call us Hydro Warriors, because it doesn't have to be easy for it to be, but we can still do it. So
we got this.
Oh man, that's crazy. And so, okay, do you have any short story or anything you want to share before we go to our first commercial, or anything crazy that's like, well, get a load of this, what happened?
Oh gosh. I think the funniest thing now is having to kind of train the people in my life that a fall or a faint is not catastrophic. So I completely understand the humanity. When you see a human fall, particularly when the human has a cane and a limp, that is disconcerting.
Yes.
But trying to keep the people around me calm. So I tripped coming out of my job. I work at a hospital because of a POTS related symptom. I had lost my balance and my hearing. So I had fallen and everybody rushed out and they were calling out, go get a wheelchair, go get the ED. And I was sitting on the floor and I kind of looked up at everybody and I said, hi. Everybody take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Because you actually can help me if everybody's panicked. So let's take a deep breath. There are no broken bones and we're going to be okay. But that was kind of funny to be counseling someone as I'm actively on the floor.
Right.
But, you just kind of got to roll with it, I guess.
Exactly. Nice. I love it. Yeah, I've had those too. It's fun.
It's a whole thing.
Well, I tell you what, Ashley, this has been awesome. In 20 minutes has gone by like that. And I'm going to go to a commercial real quick, and then we will be back. So stick around, and I will be right back.
Sounds good. Yeah,
Yay.
that's awesome.
Here we are. We're back. So, I mean, this is all kind of fascinating to me because I only know a couple people with POTS, and I know that there are so many, and some of them have been living with it for a long time. But one person that I know, she's like, she was like you. She's like, I just found out about this, and I don't know what to do, and and we're learning, and this is all just kind of a big old learning curve. And so,
Absolutely.
do you know like how widespread this is? Like, do you know how many other people around you are like in general? Like, what are we talking here?
So what I'm learning is it's not uncommon. I believe when I last looked it up, maybe last week, the statistics were somewhere between 2 and 4 million people.
Oh,
It does impact biological females a bit more. They don't know why. But to be frank, I had never heard of this condition until last year. My friend, who's also a coworker and a next door neighbor, has it. But is fairly functional. And it actually got better when she was pregnant. And she's kind of since kind of leveled out. But I really don't know anyone else around me that has it or is aware that they have it. So that's kind of been a little isolating. Because not only are you trying to learn about it, for yourself, you're now trying to educate your family and the people that intimately kind of love you and know you so that they can protect you. And that's frustrating.
Yeah. Was it? I can imagine. Yeah, of course. I mean, yeah, if you, I'm just wondering like how, if you don't know, well, and if you don't know you have it, you mentioned that, like, if you don't know you have it, you could go down all kinds of other roads, like, oh, maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's this.
Oh, yeah.
And if you don't have the right professional helping you, you could be on a road for a long time, very frustrated, figuring out what the heck is this.
It can take. I love the social media community. I love the chronic illness community. They are incredible. I follow a young lady, Dora, who has it.
Okay.
And she's kind of helped me understand. Typically, it can take someone up to 5 years to get diagnosed. So I was diagnosed within about a year, just over, actually about 10 months, and that is not typical because they'll explain it away for anxiety. Especially if you're female. So I mean, 5 years, that's a long time.
A long time. Mm-hmm. That's insane.
Yeah.
Holy cow. And okay. And obviously part of that 5 years is probably when it's being misdiagnosed as other things.
Yep.
And you're testing.
You have to imagine that it's probably flaring up as well. Like that's why we're seeking out help, is saying, oh, something is different enough that it is impacting my day-to-day life. Is typically when people go to get assistance. So to be at that point as a starting point and then have to wait 5 years is it can, in my opinion, it can be vastly dangerous.
It can, well, and there's so many other things that could, not to mention waiting could be dangerous, but misdiagnosing you and giving you a medication that you don't need, or misdiagnosing you and you should do this activity or see this doctor or do this thing, or and oh my gosh, it could be. And that's kind of the craziness about some of these mystery things, like MS can sometimes be. I mean, you mentioned blindness, right? So that's that's something that happens with people with MS a lot too. But I've heard of that happening with people with hydrocephalus. I just talked to somebody the other day that
it's happened to me.
The fluid impacted their optic
buildup. So
that's. I mean, so there's. Oh, I know. So 5 years. I'm not surprised. It's a little disconcerting, but I'm not surprised that it could take a little bit to figure this out.
Yeah.
Especially if you're dealing with something that might impact your health to the point that you're on disability or something, or you're not working
Which a lot of people are, like
Yeah.
the specialist that I'm starting to see, because there's typically a team involved.
Oh yeah.
Rheumatology, I just saw cardiology.
Mhm.
You know, the specialists that I'm starting with as a baseline, you know, said, are you on disability? You know, what do you do with your day? I'm like, no, I work like 40 to 50 hours a week. She's like, that's not common. Like,
No.
do you understand how much your life is being impacted and you're still trying to move? I'm like, well, yeah.
I mean, hey, I admire you for doing that. I mean, that's admirable, because there are a lot of people that say, okay, well, I have this condition. I it hurts to do this, so I'm just gonna not do it or whatever, and
Yeah, I
on the
think
other
it's a
hand,
delicate balance. I think
yeah,
if we have the resources to support the community, if something is detrimental to you,
yeah,
you should, if you don't, if you do not want to is one matter, but usually for our community it's a I can't.
yeah,
And if we can't safely do so, then you owe us to be supporting us. I unfortunately am just the kind of person that, to my detriment, I will run myself into the ground. And also because I don't have a life where it's an option for me to, you know, not work and
yeah,
lose, you know, thousands of dollars. My life isn't set up like that.
yeah.
But it's a systematic issue for sure. It's not set up to support us. And when somebody makes that choice, you're often villainizing them as well, which is counterproductive too.
Right. I mean, disability is a very,
Yeah,
very, very difficult and very. I mean, it's almost like damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing.
absolutely.
Because you
100%.
you go down the road, you jump through all the hoops, you do all the stuff, and then you get denied, and then you do the same thing again, and then you get
Yeah,
denied, and then it's a whole thing, man. I know people that had years before they ever saw any results. So yeah, I get where you're at. You don't want to have to go down that road. It's easier to
no,
just. I mean, for me, I had to stop. I had to stop working as many hours as I was because of for my body. Everybody's different, right? I mean, you've
absolutely.
had many more surgeries in general than I have, but I've had and maybe more in the last few years, but I've had 4 in the last 8 years, and for me, that was a lot. And so my body
Absolutely.
is kicking my butt right now and saying,
Yeah, I feel you.
slow down, dude. So I've had to, but not everybody does, and that's great. If you can, knock yourself out, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I love
Safely
seeing
knock
that.
yourself out, please, like with a
Yeah, no,
pillow.
we don't want to do that. No, sorry. Yeah, yeah.
You're good with telling people to knock themselves out.
As soon as it left my lips, I thought, wait, that was so as somebody who works that many hours, that's a lot of hours. What does day-to-day life look like, navigating all of that, all of
Yeah,
the
it's fun.
things?
It's fun. First, I would like to honor the privilege that I have for one of my jobs. I actually work in the same room that you see me right now, which is my bedroom,
Yes.
which is a privilege that not a lot of people have. So while I am working for 8 hours at a time, I'm in the comfort of my own room. That particular set of employers is very understanding. I've actually had a malfunction in the middle of that shift and
Oh,
had my mother call them and say, I'm sorry, this is happening.
yeah.
So it's just about kind of learning to listen to my body. I can't sit up the whole shift just because my body gets tired. But ironically, that's kind of best for the pots
Yeah.
versus like if I'm laying down and kind of on my side answering calls that way, it's comfortable. But as soon as I go to stand up, it's problematic.
Yeah.
And then as far as my other job, I'm seated in my wheelchair, and thankfully that job is at a hospital. So
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, if things start to get, you know, kind of dodgy or not safe, I communicate that you're either going to accept it or you're not. But
You're in the right spot there.
Hello, yeah. Hi. But I do have this has been super, super helpful. The Hidden Disability Sunflower Lanyard Project.
Oh.
Is somebody you should check out on Instagram. So they make lanyards. So if you the first part will tell you I have a hidden disability. Okay. And then if you flip it over, it tells you you can customize them. So I said, I might need more assistance or more time. Please be patient and ask me how you can help. I've identified I have POTS, CP, hydrocephalus. So I might need help with sitting, standing, or mobility. And if there's an emergency, you need to call this person. I have that on me at all times now, just in the off chance that unfortunately, one of the things happen. I need somebody to see, oh, okay, so we have a baseline that we're working with. And that kind of helps you feel a little bit more safe.
Sure.
And gives you a little bit more security. So thank you, Sunflower Lanyards and Hidden Disabilities, because you gave me some independence back. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely want to get that info for them because that's awesome. So we'll communicate that later. Maybe we could put it in the notes of the show or something. But there's actually an organization called Invisible Disabilities Association that is doing something very similar to that.
I love it.
That is awesome. So that's great. And they're talking about, I don't know if it's a lanyard, but it's something that you carry with you. They got very similar information.
Absolutely.
I've even seen this was really cool on Facebook. It's like a Facebook ad or something, and I saw it on seatbelts. There's like a little wrap on the seatbelt. And it'll say, I'm nonverbal, don't, whatever, or, all the things, and it'll have it just like in, picture form, a little bit of text, and to give the paramedic or whoever comes over the car first a clue about what's going on, so they don't go up to it, like, for instance, an autistic child and start grabbing them out of the seat. And so,
like we saw, like when I fell, I will be the first to acknowledge, even with my sinister mind, most people are well-intended. However, if you don't take a second and a beat and a breath to kind of assess how you can be most helpful, when you're assuming what that person needs, you actually could be doing more harm. So, for things like this, it just kind of allows you to be the one to dictate, what does that help look like? What do I need? And how can you support me? Because it has to be about us.
Well, to kind of stop them in their tracks when they're in that frantic,
Yeah, because
help,
that is a reaction, right? Versus like when I fall in the house, my grandfather responds, "Do you need help?
Yes.
Are you good? Yep." So the response is not him running up the stairs, or he's actually, I've fallen a few times in public. When I fell outside my job, he was about 10 feet in front of me in the car. He didn't come out because he knows I get embarrassed. When I get frantic, I can't then coordinate to stand up. So his response might not be what you think is typical, but it is a response that allows me to do what my body needs.
Exactly.
So reaction and response, and putting the person with the invisible condition at the forefront of that dictation.
Right, exactly. And Catherine does the same thing. We've known each other for so long, and she's been through so many of these with me. And so same thing, like at the grocery store, I'll sometimes just get on my knees, hold on to the shopping cart on my knees. And she's just like, okay, I'll be over here getting this thing. And, and she knows that if really something hits the fan and I need real help, then I'll let her know. But, she's like, okay, well, your body, so I'll see you in a little bit. And so
100% that. And I understand that it looks callous and cold.
It totally could. Yeah.
But you have to understand
observer.
That there's a system in place with the people that we love that dictates this is how you have to respond, because it's not about you or your comfort. It's about us what we need. So
Right.
yeah, this is huge for me. It makes me
That's
feel
amazing.
like, oh, I can be out in the community, and if something happens, I might actually still be okay. So
Yeah, that's awesome. So I know this is going to sound like a kind of a weird question in our last couple minutes of this segment, but is there anything with this newfound condition that you've got here with the POTS, is there anything that you've found that you are actually thankful for?
Ooh.
I didn't pick hydrocephalus on that one because I know that there would be something there. But
ironically, I think this will be the condition this has been the condition that has made me kind of stop and slow down, which is ironic if you've listened to the last couple of minutes. But this has kind of been the condition because it impacts everything that really has dictated. You cannot do everything that you once did, and that's not failure. You have to listen to me, or we could actually end up very, very hurt, purely because you don't want to acknowledge this. So this has really been the thing that, like, mobility aids won't go without them. The wheelchair, listening to my body and kind of being very vocal, this has been the condition that's allowed me to go, no, you have to listen to me and I have to listen to it, or this could end badly. So that's a blessing, because I would have just run myself into the ground. I really would.
You know what? Even 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago, I was like that. I would do the 60-hour weeks without even thinking about it. And, 3 hours of sleep, no big deal. Not eating until the end of the day, no big deal. Can't do that anymore. And
we're getting old. We're getting old. We cannot do these things anymore.
You're not getting old. I'm getting old. You're quite a bit younger than I am. But I tell you what, it's either way. You have to listen, and everybody comes to that. I think everybody comes to that point with a invisible condition that's chronic like that. That's not like you can't just have surgery and make it go away. Everybody comes to the realization that they have to slow down and listen to their body and do what it says, or it will do you in. So it's an important thing. So I tell you what, Ashlee, we got to do one more commercial, and then we will be right back here in just a minute.
Sounds good.
And bring it on.
that music made me feel like I was a superhero. It was giving me like Incredibles vibes from like
right?
I loved it. Wow.
Okay, I keep thinking to myself that looks so much like a movie trailer.
It does. It looks like Pixar's Incredibles.
I know. I'll have to tell Rob that he created that owns Cheap Systems. He would love that. I'm sure he knows. I mean, I'm sure that's the millionth time he's heard that. But,
oh yeah.
But I'm sure he did it on purpose like that, because it so does sound like Mr. It's like right. You're waiting for Mr. Incredible to.
Spoonies, you are superhuman and incredible. That is your tagline.
Boom. We should play that commercial every time.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So as you may or may not have seen through at that, coming back in, there was a little spot on there that says, about hope, because that is what, I mean, that is what our whole thing is, I mean, we have a company called Hydro with Hope. I mean, it's, that's, if you don't have hope, you're dead in the water already. So especially with invisible conditions that don't go away. How do you maintain, Ashlee, how do you maintain hope through all of this? What's your go-to?
I let me be very transparent. I don't know that I have a go-to. I am somebody that deals with chronic depression. I suffer from like passive suicide ideation because I think there's something very innate within me that feels like that there is not hope. Remember, I'm 31 years old and I have dealt with at least two of these for 31 years.
Yeah.
But I will say the Spoonie community, the community, and social media have largely been the things that keep me going, because I don't feel like a deviant of society. I don't feel like this weird offset thing that is inherently different in a society that isn't set up to support us. So the chronic illness and social media kind of movement and visibility is one of the things that makes me feel seen. I have people that I will text and message that I have never physically met in person, and yet they are the people that I go to when shit hits the fan, because they understand the things that I can explain to my able-bodied, loving and supportive family, but they cannot understand it because they don't live it.
Right.
So, with that support and the visibility that you're seeing, because I certainly didn't grow up seeing it, to see us kind of out here and just as loud and visible tells me that, if I decide to have children, maybe they won't feel so different. And that gives me hope, because it's change. So that's the thing that I have to hold on to.
Sure. So the resources, what kind of in-person or online, like you talked about the groups on social media and stuff, is there, and then where the organization that we're going to put info in the notes with the tag that you had there, is there any specific groups either online or that you've found locally in where you live that
So unfortunately, I have not yet identified anything locally. We're still a bit, as far as POTS is concerned, we're still a bit kind of behind the times. But I will say, as crazy as it sounds, as simplistic as it sounds, if you have social media, put in a hashtag chronic illness, Spoonies, hashtag a specific invisible chronic condition, and you will see people that are living with what you have, or you'll see a post that will resonate with you that might highlight, a foundation or someone living with that. And that's kind of how I got my start, was through, social media, because, for all the things that it maybe doesn't do right, the one thing it can do is bring you together. So
Yeah.
that community kind of saved me, because I would feel very isolated without it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. I I couldn't believe when we started down this road. It was over almost a year ago, which is
Almost. I was going to
unbelievable.
say a year and a half, 2 years ago.
It's been almost a year since we started Hydro with Hope. And when we started that, that's the first thing we did was, once we figured out, because it was a debate, like, do we do brick and mortar? Do we do online? Do we do social media? And obviously social media is the way to go, because it's everywhere worldwide.
Yep.
And oh my Lord, when I started looking into this, and how many groups and how many international groups, there's more, there's so much out there. It's almost like you have to try to feel alone now. I mean, it's not, I know it's not as real as me walking up to you on the street and giving you a hug, but it's it's there. The community is still there.
It's the community, I would say, is more intimate to me than the day-to-day life.
Yeah.
Because there's a certain safety in that secondary, like what you and I are doing right now, almost because I can't touch you. I'm more inclined to share a little bit more, because there's a certain barrier that I have. So for somebody like me, I actually feel safer here than I would, with people in my life, which is why, like, they look at my social media and they're like, huh? I can't get you to say 10 words. And I'm like, oh, follow me on social media. That's where you get all the tea. That's where you get all the tea.
Nice. Well, okay. So I have kind of a question that might feel a little bit offbeat, but I noticed on your Instagram, you've got something posted. You've got a lot of stuff about essential oils and stuff. And I'm guessing, so traditional medicine sometimes is not always the answer. I know that. Oh my gosh, I wouldn't be upright and out of the house if it weren't for some non-traditional things I did a few years ago, that once I figured out that traditional medicine gave up on me for a couple things. So how has that helped you? Is that
First, let me protect my behind and say that they are not authorized or put out there to fix, cure, manage any of that.
Right.
But very much like you, we are now living in a space where, for various very valid reasons, medication is not dispensed for people with chronic illnesses. The medical field is kind of set up to deal with acute, immediate needs. For somebody with chronic illness, none of that is true for us. So it went from, when I walk by a candle or a really strong scent, migraine, so what can I do to, so I can still smell good and not have a migraine? It's actually how I kind of started with essential oils. And then I realized, when I combine certain oils and I put it on my skin, it's kind of like a cooling effect on my joints. So it kind of, it enters a void that the traditional Western medication route kind of leaves this space for, because it really isn't set up to deal with or handle or treat, chronic long-term symptoms, which are still going to be there regardless of whether or not you treat me medicinally. So it was really cool to see that I don't have to rely on just that, because, they kind of let me down. So I was like, oh, I have other things. So that's been a learning journey too.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, I totally agree. There was a time where when I had some, like constant migraines for over a year.
Oh my Lord, they're debilitating.
It was insane.
Oh.
And one of the things that saved me was one particular oil that I would put on my thumb and press to the roof of my mouth, and it would. It wasn't a cure. It wasn't a fix it or anything. It was a temporary measure to be able to get me between taking this and doing this remedy or doing, it was kind of like a segue from one thing to the next to keep me sane and on my feet.
Like it's another tool in our box that we can use and sometimes have to use, because the medical field kind of goes like this,
Well,
which is really frustrating.
I kind of get why they do that. I mean, yes, a neurosurgeon's scope of practice is about as wide as a human hair. I mean, but I get it because they can't recommend that kind of stuff because of so much and say what you want about the reasoning for it, but they are so liable for so much stuff now that, I mean, they pay so much in liability insurance. It's just insane. And so I get it that they don't want to recommend things that aren't outside their medical purview
or not.
I totally get it, but but at the same time, it can be really frustrating as a patient.
Yeah, because you're still suffering, and I think that is what people who do not have chronic invisible conditions don't understand. Is we are operating, or let me not speak for everybody. I am operating at a baseline of suffering that if somebody without a chronic condition or reason came into a doctor or an ED for, that they would immediately jump on that because they say, what do you mean you operate at a 7? I'm like, well, that's a baseline for us.
You operate at you operate at your 7. Our 1 to 10 scale is different.
Like, can we invent a spoony 1 to 10, please? Because
can we just
or hot take, can we get rid of that, please, and just listen to the patient?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, what's your there's a comedian out there that does a really good bit about that. I'll tell you about it later. It's so funny. It's like the 1 to 10 scale. It's like, how would you rate your pain? He says, 2 enthusiastic thumbs up. It's like, what do you want? What are you asking me here?
So that's been kind of interesting. It's hard to realize that there are a large group of people that do not operate at a baseline of legitimate pain, and I'm like, I can't relate to you.
You can't relate to that. No, but it's okay. They can still love you and still support you and still, try and understand at least. That's all you can do sometimes. But with our last couple minutes, just how can people, real quick, how can people find you, reach out to you if they want to?
So my handle is a bit long. I apologize for that. But it is my name, Ashlee, ASHLEE, Kelly, KELLY _IME blog. You can find me on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, because I lost a bet and ended up on the rabbit hole that is TikTok. And I think more than anything, I just want people to feel like they are not alone. Unfortunately, I'm just a human. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a genie. I can't fix anything. But what I can do is make sure that for whatever time that someone is with me or talking to me, you're not alone, and you're sitting with someone who, if I don't get it, I will do my damnedest to understand. And I think that was kind of I don't know that there was a purpose for the pain that I've endured, which is way too immense for this session. But
we'll cover that next time. Yeah.
But I think if there was a purpose, it was so that I could connect with and understand the people that are also just trying to live, like, despite immense difficulties and barriers. So that is a privilege to be able to use pain to support others. Is pretty spectacular and is never too high a price.
That's amazing. Well, thank you, Ashlee. I'm so excited that we got to do this. We gotta go, but I will we'll touch base with you here in just a minute. And thank you so much for being here. And we're gonna put all your information in the info, and we'll maybe do this again soon.
Sounds good to me.
Awesome.
Bye, everybody.
Oh man, thank you for everybody tuning in, and we gotta go, but we will see you again on Tuesday for a live show. So have a wonderful day, and remember that you are not alone. Okay, we'll see you Tuesday.